Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, taking time out of your Thursday evening to be here with us at UTA. Thank you, UTA, for hosting tonight's screening and everyone behind the scenes for making this happen. My name is Carolina Gropa. For those who don't know me, I'm also a client here at UTA. I'm also a producer, and I have a podcast that I host called Angle on Producers, where I've spent over 5 years talking to producers across all corners of our industry to sort of demystify a little bit about the path and what it means to do this work that is often invisible. So it gives me great pleasure to be hosting this tonight and moderating this conversation. And so I'd love to welcome tonight's guest, Sanne Wohlenberg down, our non-executive writing producer, and also Ariel Kleiman, who directed tonight's episode. Yeah. It's nice to meet you both in front of everybody. We haven't met yet. Hi. Nice to meet you. Hi. Hello. Congratulations is in order. Certainly. How does it feel to watch your work in a room full of incredible people?
Well, it's funny, we have seen this episode so many times, and it always occurs to me that I never tire of it. I always get engaged. It must be a testament to that we have done rather good.
Do you find new things with every watch? And if so, I'm curious what you found tonight.
No, I really know everything.
You know everything. You're like, it's good. What about for you?
It's really boring stuff, but I notice like new ADR lines. I'm like, oh, they changed that line.
And you noticed a bit of track in the shot.
I noticed there's dolly track in a shot.
Oh my God.
Really?
I noticed it when I watched on
in
Disney
what scene?
Plus.
In what scene? Tell
In
us.
the ceremony.
Don't tell,
There's like
don't
a
tell.
piece of circular dolly track.
During the rave or during the wedding?
No, during the ceremony when
The
the
actual
kids
ceremony.
are like in that circular courtyard.
I don't think, did anyone catch that? No? Okay.
2 shots, Tony.
I
Circular.
cannot believe he didn't spot that.
Well, now you know if it...
Oh,
If
can
it
I
ends in
also just say, we know Tony Gilroy's in the house, but
Yes,
also John
please.
Gilroy's in the house, our fabulous editor of this episode and a fellow co-producer of mine.
I think if this ends up in a subreddit about the show, we know it's the culprits is in this room with that fact. I'd love to start with, Star Wars is obviously such a huge franchise and property, a brand that many know, that many have grown up with. And I'd love to know your entry point into Star Wars growing up, at what point you came to know of it, and what that feeling was like to then get to step in and help create Andor.
Interesting. I mean, my entry point was really the original films that were really groundbreaking and I have a very vivid memory and I really enjoyed them. But I wasn't one of these ardent Star Wars fans that followed the franchise all along and really up until Rogue One, I guess, because I'm a huge fan of Tony Gilroy's and I knew he was involved with that and that's what I watched. And one bizarre day I got a phone call from Lucasfilm and they asked me whether I could imagine being involved in a series that is a prequel to Rogue One. And yeah, who would have thought? So I have a bit of an unusual journey to it. I'm not one of these super fans, but I have huge respect and it's been a real extraordinary possibility, to be able to tell a story that is this relevant and timely and important as part of this iconic franchise, and this scope and scale that enabled us to tell the story and was really something I could have never imagined.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me at like 13 what my favorite film was, it would probably be like Pulp Fiction or Star Wars. But I was very honest with these guys. I had not engaged with Star Wars as an adult at all. Like maybe since I was 18, I was just like...
And you told them this.
I did tell them
And how was that received?
They were like, that's great.
That's great. Okay, good.
Yeah.
It seemed to be a tick. But... they pitched me this like, 'cause I hadn't seen anything or read anything that they had done in the first season. And they pitched me this idea of doing an adult grounded Star Wars. And I was like, wow, that's something like, that could be really cool.
I mean, I'd like to think that the fact that you both weren't perhaps mega fans is part of the magic that we see, is that your entry point seems to be really rooted in character and story, and not necessarily in getting lost in sort of the fandom that perhaps others may, and that may have been part of the nuance that we feel in Andor specifically.
I really agree with that. I mean, I think when Tony and I started out and kind of were brought together by Kathy Kennedy, and he first probably thought, who the hell is that lady? But anyway, we kind of quite quickly developed the same language. And I think one of the things we bonded about early when we were looking for teams to come on board, that we really tried to look for HODs that hadn't worked on the franchise before, that weren't, completely programmed into something that they've always done. And, working on Star Wars is a bit like a period piece. You have to fit into the world and what the rules that are set at the galaxy far, far away it has. But hiring people to kind of lead the charge who could look at it and bring a fresh approach and their own thoughts was just, I think, a big part of making it, as special and particularly Andor as it is.
This world deals so much with a series of characters in the Star Wars world we don't get to see. And so in a way, you guys coming in as outsiders to some degree, I think is part of what helped really shape it in this unique way.
Well, it's a weird one because I feel like it's in my bones,
Yeah.
it honestly, I've seen that movie probably more times than I've seen any other movie, the original trilogy. But the mandate on Andor is to make it real, especially for all the HODs, but especially for the directors. And that's the challenge of how do we make this real? How do we layer the details and the history in every little second of screen time to make this feel a lived-in pre-existing world.
And was that challenging? Was it hard to kind of break away from the expectations that come with a franchise like this to bring something more nuanced into a world that I would say that Star Wars is synergistic with nuance, right? The brand itself.
For me, it wasn't limiting at all. It was actually like incredibly creative. And you literally are pushed to your creative limits to try and bring this to life. So I personally didn't find it limiting at all. It was like incredibly exciting.
I quite agree. And also, bringing Star Wars to the small screen and making it serial gives you so much opportunity to dive into stories and, and see characters and situations that you wouldn't have time on when you do have a 2 hour or so slot, on the feature. So, the idea of seeing the kitchens and having a Dedra and Cyril in their own home having a dinner with mum is something who would have thought that you could bring that actually to the stories of Star Wars, and this format allows it. And Tony's really huge focus on a character-driven story and creating very three-dimensional characters where you see new facets and new shades of characters. That is just a very exciting place to be, and all the details that brings with it that you have to create.
I think the humanizing of characters that perhaps typically we see one dimension of is really captivating in this show, at least for me. And that mother-in-law scene was hysterical. And to see that, even people in the Empire, like, they still have issues with their mother-in-law, like, no matter how cold they may be or appear, they still have to navigate similar feelings. It's very relatable, I guess, which is interesting.
And also for me, there's more violence in the words in that scene than there is in the action.
Yeah.
Like sitting on those kind of close-ups of their faces. Yeah. They're kind of these like great landscapes. And I mean, that's the beauty of what Tony writes, is like there's just as much grandeur and violence in these words and the text as the visuals.
Yeah, it's stunning. And the acting, of course, and the way you guys, move the camera, it just really flows and brings this dynamic energy into the scene that always feels additive to what we're supposed to be feeling. And I commend you on that. I'm curious, for you, Ari, you have an independent film background and you got to step in and direct 6 episodes of this season. That's a huge feat. That's half of the season. talk a little bit about that journey and what you were able to bring from your indie sort of background into this huge property.
I guess I'd kind of I'd worked on a lot of indie kind of weird dramas, dark dramas. But the thing that no one knew was I actually loved action films. So I had, I was like ready to go. I was like a gun ready to fire, ready to attack this kind of grander action stuff. So that was very enjoyable for me.
I think when you're able to really ground the characters and at its core, it's just a really good indie drama, right? But within the Star Wars universe. And to me, that like really, I believe is what is landing with people in a different way. So I commend you on that. Yeah.
It's very exciting to see that happening. It was, it's certainly something that you hope that people connect what you're offering and the story in particular. And it's very exciting to see a resonance, which is hopefully timeless.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we have so many options of what to watch nowadays. And as we know, just a recognizable brand doesn't always mean that audiences are going to show up in the ways that we want them to. And so when you can break through the noise and make it be a conversation piece, I think that's worth celebrating, certainly, regardless of if it's in a huge, massive world. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time tonight. I want to open it up to the audience for some Q&A. Yeah? Okay, cool. So I would love to open it up to anyone who may have a burning question.
Well, first of all, I love that you have that human quality because I believe our world is losing that right now. We need to be reminded. So that's what really impressed me about what you're doing. But my real burning question is, when did you choose to put the humor in? Because things sometimes are very strange places, but I love it.
It's really a question for Mr. Gilroy, who is sitting up there, who has a great sense of humor. And I think, look, a lot of, when you tell dark and hard-hitting stories, I think, darkness and humor are always closely linked. And that's really part of humanity. And I think it's a great beauty in Tony's writing.
Did you block shoot those like 3 episodes together or like, so it was going all around the wheat fields? That it looks beautiful, but like
it's real. We grew it.
You grew it.
You started a year before it.
It's block shot. The wheat is a big story because it was planted, 14 months earlier?
14 months earlier, we decided we found the piece of land. We had crop experts. We picked the most otherworldly old rye, and then we grew it for a year. And then we had a 3-week window at the end when it was consistently golden in order to complete our shoot.
I can't think of anything more indie than that.
Oh, crazy. Simply crazy. You will be pleased to hear that the crop turned out wonderfully. What we hadn't quite banked on was the SARC strike, and we didn't complete.
And the crop was rotting in front of our eyes.
And then
it's like a biblical tragedy.
And then harvest didn't meet wrapping, having completed it. It meant plucking the harvested wheat into boards and storing them on the bond stage in Pinewood for 6 months before we came back to it and completed the bits we hadn't shot.
I literally thought you guys were being sarcastic the whole time.
No.
That's a true story.
It
gets worse too. There are some scenes we had to shoot with an actor and a double and guess what the other actor was going to do. So when that actor came back, they had to literally, I had to draw on the floor where they walk on what line. Because we had to make those decisions for them.
Yeah.
A couple of scenes.
Yeah, and there's many scenes when Creepy Crawl is standing outside the mobile home. That was him. His side was shot 6 months before her side.
Well, it's seamless. No one felt it.
The show must go on.
The show does go on. I love all the war stories behind the scenes. Personally, that's where I geek out because you see the credits. It's like 3 minutes of the incredible people that it takes to create that world and that sort of infrastructure and the minutia of detail and conversation. It blows my mind, frankly.
Tony is an obsessive compulsive, and it really kind of comes all down from him, and it really is extraordinary. Our team outdid themselves. We are just, look at the costumes, look at the production design, look at absolutely everything that you see. It is a whole army of designers and craftspeople that, design, concept, model, and build it. And it really makes the world feel real. And I do feel that, luckily people respond to that, because when you're telling a true emotional story in a galaxy far, far away, it's great when it feels real and the world is just kind of, believed for what it is, rather than becoming, oh, look what they can do.
We're obsessed with shooting it in camera, like everything. And I believe that's quite indie. And like, we would rather be creative about like maybe reusing a set rather than leaning into VFX. So it's like a big, it's a big mantra for the team.
Bunch of indie mad people.
Love to hear it.
What conversations were had about the casting and the character of the mother?
Oh, God.
That predates me.
That was season 1. I mean, we had a fantastic casting team, Nina Gold and Martin Ware. And when it came to, the mother was just beautifully scripted, and we needed a very particular character, and Nina Gold had the idea to let Catherine Hunted, audition for it. And it was, I remember exactly the day we got the audition. Oh my God. She appeared as Edie and really blew us away, and we just knew she had to be part of it.
I don't know if it's more for Tony, or for you guys, but how did you come up with some of the Chandrilian customs? Because we see like a lot in this episode, like from the wedding to the dance, and like, this is really the first time there's been a wedding in the, like, on screen Star Wars universe. So it's really cool to see like these different customs and traditions that look like so different to us. But for like Mon's planet, it's like they're special occasions and all that.
Yeah, that's the joy of like, and this is examples of how it pushes you to your creative extremes. The ceremony, I think Tony was quite specific about a couple of beats. The branch, when the in-laws lay the branch down, and the cutting of the braid and the knife. And the rest we had to make up. And it's like, what is the ceremony? So it's like this beautiful collaboration where first we look at Luke Hull's set, which was this kind of amazing circular atrium, and he had this kind of green patch in the middle. We kind of tape it out in a warehouse, and we meet one day with the actors, and we just start like playing and start like all throwing around ideas of what could this ceremony be. And I was really drawn to like this cyclical story, because Vel, the auntie, mentions in a previous episode that it's kind of ironic that the kids are like into this extreme orthodoxy. So it was like very nice for me, this cyclical circular story. So we started to kind of build this circular kind of clockwork to the ceremony. And honestly, it's just play. It's just play with everyone, and we kind of build it beat by beat.
Yes, and also it's so nice that it's, kind of the movement gets picked up in the dance later. And we had a choreographer, and it's always, you always try to, what's a wedding but in a galaxy far, far away, and Chandrila that we don't know. And really, Tony, I remember him wrestling with, having to write this and coming up with the braid and the knife and the so he really does try to, ground it in something that is really quite simple and pagan, and go really way back in Chandrilan, traditions, and feel that is part of that ceremony. But it's a great joy. It's like how do you create dances that are, appropriate for the, the wedding dance of Leda and Steeken, and it's what makes it otherworldly, what puts it in a galaxy far, far, what makes it Chandrilan, and it's a fascinating process. But the world building, I think we kind of began to get on top of in season 1, when you really have to think about it all, and how do they live? What is their work? What is the climate? What is their culture? How do we create it? And then what do they wear? And the more you bring that together and make it real, I think the more you effortlessly engage and believe that reality.
Absolutely. Okay. I think we have 5 minutes left. So I see 3 hands. We'll see if we can get to all of them. You go ahead, sir.
I love the part of the wedding where parents enter the circle. I thought that was really was kind of magical. Any stories about that set and anything? I think I heard about don't go there. It's not, the paint's not dry, that sort of thing. Was there any sackers around this?
That was generally the case for our sets.
Don't lean on the sets.
Never ever lean. They normally were finished the day after we started shooting on it. That was a general thing. But I don't know. I mean, it was...
The thing these guys didn't know was I grew up shooting wedding videos.
So this is
when I read the script, I was like in the zone.
I knew
how to shoot dancing. I knew how to shoot a ceremony. So
I love it. Okay, the other hands I saw here. Yes.
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you walk the line of a very grounded story with a world that has to feel like it's science fiction. It has to feel far enough down that path without crossing the line into distracting from the grounded story.
Well, it always starts with, I mean, for me, it's always the human story. So it kind of emanates from that. And then from there, once you get the human drama real, we believe on Andor that everything should make sense physically, like with physics. So and Tony, his scripts are so masterful. Everything makes sense. Like if a character is running from the center of town to a house, he's timed how long that takes. And in the intercut, there are no logic bumps when you're putting it together, which is crazy because this thing's so intricate and we're juggling so many things. So it's like the script is so watertight on logic or just physics. It's incredible.
Very much so. But also, I think, the stories would hold up even if you would tell them, right now, kind of in a few streets down the road. The galaxy far, far away adds, just, a wonderful creative challenge and some otherness. But the human stories really hold up wherever they would be playing. And I think that is a strength.
Okay, last question. Make it real good. No pressure. Go ahead.
How far back do you go in the lore in order to create for yourselves? Is there someone able to just give you these societies and their history and they give it to you on some platter? You're able to kind of make and expand upon that? Or do you have to kind of build a lot yourself in order to establish these massive sets?
I think really the new worlds that we haven't seen yet are, born from Tony's imagination, and it's all as a free hand to create this. And then the process of perfecting that and coming to all the details, he goes through with the team and collaborates greatly with our production designer and whatever department, and VFX, of course, and whatever department, costume, makeup, it's a whole bunch of people that sit together and take his idea and then help him flesh it out and bring it to reality.
Thank you all so much for hanging out with us for this evening. We really appreciate it. There's a reception outside. We hope to see you there. So thank you. Thank you again, UTA.